time. And our goal became to be trainers, to train the other members in our club to be teachers. Your mentors are the trainers. The mentees look at yourself as training to be a teacher. The purpose of that is because if you learn something from a teacher, you learn something. But as a teacher, if you learn what you've got to teach other people, you really learn it, because you've got to know a subject thoroughly to be able to teach it to somebody else. So approach the mentee part of the program, like you're going to be teaching this to people. Learn it thoroughly from the mentors. And to everybody that is an experienced beekeeper, this gets pretty deep into philosophy here, but we're all going to leave this plane of existence sometime. Some of us sooner than others. The only thing you're going to leave here that's going to make any difference is what you know. It doesn't matter if you've got $1 million, that's going to be gone. Somebody's going to get it and buy up a bunch of cars and wreck them all. You know? They're going to buy a bunch of stock in Enron, and then what happens? The only thing you're going to leave that's going to make any difference is what you know. If you pass on what you know to the next generation that's coming up in your craft, you've got a legacy. And everybody, that should be your goal, is to leave a legacy of what you know how to do with other people that are coming up in your craft. That's being a trainer and training people to be teachers. The teachers eventually become trainers and train new teachers. That's how you pass down knowledge. And in doing that, this is the greatest benefit of all of that, is you form a community. And when you become a community, then everybody's got all the help that you need. If you don't know how to do something, maybe this other person knows how to do it. Everybody's not going to be everything. Everybody's not going to be an expert at raising queens, plus an expert at rendering wax and making wax products, plus an expert. I mean, if they are, run them off. You know, they're way too smart. They're dangerous. Next thing you know, they'll own your house.
And your bees.
But that's the push. That's the big selling point for a mentor program, which trains teachers, which become trainers, and it leaves a legacy of what you know how to do. And that's the whole point of attending meetings like this. That's also the whole reason that I come and speak at things like this. I don't enjoy traveling. I used to love it till I started having to do it. And then when I started having to travel keeping bees, it didn't take long for the romance to wear off of that. And there has to be a greater purpose to it. Traveling, keeping bees, the greater purpose is you're making a living doing it. Traveling and speaking, the greater purpose is that I'm leaving a little something that maybe will help somebody. At the very least, you can say, well, that guy was so ignorant that I don't think I'll ever waste my time on one of his things again. So you can go have a good hamburger or something instead of coming and listening to a presentation I give. But that's how to approach this. Build community by being trainers and teachers. Yes, sir.
Hey, so since we have a fair number of new beekeepers getting
Yep.
started here tonight, it'd be good if you could, you know, do whatever you would feel, say whatever you would say to people getting started in beekeeping. I know you have your two expectations that you feel you need to set.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
maybe they
There's
need to hear that.
everybody that's new at this, there's two things you're going to have to come to grips with. There's two absolutes. Everything in beekeeping is a maybe, or hopefully, or could be, or wish it was. But there's two things that you can count on. Number one, you're gonna get stung. Get over it, you know. If you get stung and on the arm, and your arm swells up, and it hurts really, really bad, and it gets hot and feverish, and it's swelled up and it's kind of throbbing, you're not having an allergic reaction. That means you're normal. When I get stung, a mosquito or a flea makes a bigger spot on my arm than a honeybee does. That is not normal. That is the other end of the spectrum from getting stung on the arm, and all of a sudden you start itching around the waist, and maybe itching on the neck, and then you break out in hives, and then you get nauseous, and your head starts throbbing from one sting on the arm. And then you start feeling like you're congested in the chest. Probably too late then. You know?
You're gonna die. You're gonna die.
So, you're going to get stung. If you're really allergic and you start itching somewhere other than the sting site, or you break out in hives, go to the doctor. You know, go to the ER. Use an EpiPen if you've got one. But if you, yeah, Benadryl. Benadryl takes about 20 minutes to get into your system. So it might keep you alive, maybe.
Take it before.
Well, you'll be asleep in the bee yard then. You'll have a search team out looking for you, and you'll be slumped over in the bee yard. They charge a lot of money for coming looking for you too.
Where do you get your Benadryl from?
But if you get stung and your arm swells up, that's a normal reaction. You're not having an allergic reaction, that's a normal reaction. The allergic reaction is hives, nausea, head throbbing, blurred vision. Those are the initial clues that you're having an actual allergic reaction. And that's time for an EpiPen or to go to the ER. But the chest congestion, that's a little bit later down the road, and then your heart stops. So, you know, you're pretty much done at that point. But there's only 4 out of 100 people, on average, 4 out of 100 people in North America that are allergic to honeybee stings. I mean, anaphylactic allergic, or that you have the allergic reaction that you've got to go to an emergency room. And in my beekeeping career, I've met all of them. You know, 4 out of 100, I've met them all, because every time I go somewhere to speak about bees, garden club or something like that, they're all allergic. Well, we can't keep bees, they'll kill us. Well, you know, soul a staircase if you fall down it. But that's the first absolute. You're going to get stung. If you're a new beekeeper, get used to it. Yes, sir.
Over a period of time, will you build up a tolerance to them for your body?
The odd thing about venoms and toxins, and I've had this conversation with different doctors, and that's a great unknown. Some people develop a tolerance to a toxin. Some people develop a sensitivity to a toxin. You can be allergic one week and not allergic the next week, or vice versa. And there's so many variables that are just not studied that it's impossible to say. The one thing that does hold true is your reaction will not be the same every time. It will either be better or worse. It won't be exactly the same because your body changes, your physiology changes. from a lot of different factors. Hormones, diet, stress level, your initial stress level when you get stung. But it's not something to take a chance on. I had a guy that worked for me that was seriously allergic, and he asked me if I'd hire him to work for me. And I said, no, I'm not going to hire you. He said, why not? I'd be good at this. I really like watching you do bees. I said, yeah, but you die. And he said, well, that's my business. And I told him, I said, you seriously want to work for me moving bees and learning to raise queens? He said, yeah, I do. And I said, okay, I don't like you that much anyway. So I hired him, and you know that guy, he worked for me for 9 years, and or worked with me. He didn't really work for me. He worked with me for 9 years, and within 4 years, he wouldn't even swell up when he got stung. The first 2 years, he'd had to take an EpiPen shot when he'd get stung. And I kept telling him, I said, you're nuts. But, you know, that's your rat killing. If you want to die from it, it's your business. But I worked with another guy that I used to do business with him. I didn't work with him. He kept bees for 50 years, got stung one spring, and almost did die. He'd never had a reaction at all. He was like me, get stung, nothing happened. And he developed a serious allergy to honeybee venom, just I don't know, a matter of a month. And he took the desensitization process and got over it. But anyway, it can go either way. That's the first absolute. So you're going to get stung, get over it. It will hurt. You will never get used to it. You know, some people ask me, how many times you get stung a year? I don't know, maybe 1,500? I don't know. I don't count them, you know. But nearly all of them are just nicks. You know, the bees are, when a bee lights on you, if most of the time they light on you, they're just checking you out. They light on you, even if they're mad. They'll light on you and they'll run this way and run that way like I'm gonna whip you. And then all of a sudden they're like, what was I mad about? And fly off. You know, us guys understand this, they're girls. We understand that. But I can say that because my wife ain't in the crowd. But and if she was, she would just be hanging her head because I embarrass her quite often. About every time we're in public, actually. But when they're going to sting you, they light on you and they grip like this, and you can feel it. You'll learn that feel. When a bee lights on you and you feel it grip, you got about 1.5 seconds to thump it into the next county. And so most of the stings I get are just nicks. They're not hard stings. But the next question that they ask, they say, how many times you get stung? I always ask, today? How many times I get stung today? No, I mean, in your life. Oh, that's way too many, I can't count. Well, in a year, 1,500, I don't know, maybe 2,000 in a bad year. Well, don't it hurt? Well, yeah. Yeah, it hurts. They always hurt. You'll never get used to getting stung. It's that shock. It's that reaction of having a dog that you love to death, and you go to pet it and it bites you. You know, that's your beehive. You love that beehive to death, and you go to pet it and it bites you. So it's that initial shock of getting stung that hurts really more than the physical part of it. But that's the first reality of beekeeping. The second reality is, this is an absolute, your bees are going to die. If you have a hive of bees, it doesn't matter how healthy it looks, how healthy, I mean, You can do a mite check and not be any mites in it. You can do a nosema test and not be any nosema in it. Everything can be working great. The queen can be laying. And the next time you go out there, there's nothing there. Your bees are going to die. Get over it. You know, that's, does anybody in here have a garden? You raise
Well, not
squash?
right now, but yeah.
Well, yeah, well, hey, I've got a pretty good garden started in my honey room right now. But that's another story. But, legal garden. Since I'm being recorded, I gotta make these stipulations. But you have squash. You can have a nice big pretty squash plant and think, man, I'm gonna get a lot of squash off that. And you go out there the next day and it's all wilted and there's some little bug that you can't even see that's got in there and killed it. That's your beehive. For whatever reason, your bees are gonna die. Sometimes there don't even seem like there has to be a reason. And you just have to get over it. The only way, and this is what I learned when I went to East Texas and worked for some guys out there and learned how to do this. This is what I learned. The only way you're going to stay in business is to learn how to multiply your hives. Take one hive and make 3 or 4 out of it. Out of that 3 or 4 that you make out of it, if you have 4 hives in the spring and they go through the summer, one of those hives is going to make 3/4 of the honey of the group. One of them is going to be a killer. I mean, it's going to be great. One of them is going to make a little honey. It'll make the other 25% of the honey. So that's 100% of the honey that the group of 4 makes in a year. One of them is going to make barely enough to stay alive, and you're going to have to feed it just to get it into the winter. And one of them is going to be dead. That's just the dynamics of beekeeping. That's the numbers that you're going to find, and it may be even worse than that. But that's the best that you can count on with your bees. You got to learn. You got to be able to take one hive and multiply that hive into 3 or 4, just to guarantee that you're going to have the same number of bees going into the next year. That's not that hard. This is the one thing, if I could impress something on everybody that I talk to, this would be the one thing. Nothing in beekeeping is as difficult as you think it is. Learning how to raise queens is not hard. We're intimidated by it. We're intimidated by what we don't know how to do. I was. Then when I learned it, I thought, man, these guys have been ripping me off for years. If you learn how to make nukes, you're going to think the same thing. Shaking packages. Doing a mite test, a mite roll. Counting mites. Dissecting bees. Looking for diseases. Checking for nosema using a microscope. None of that is difficult. You people that have never had a beehive, that this is your first year, you're thinking about getting a beehive, by the end of this year you could be doing every bit of this just as good as I do. Well, that ain't saying much. Just as good as somebody that's really good does. And that's no lie. I mean, right now you're thinking, yeah, you're just saying that. I'm not. If you apply yourself, it's not that hard to learn. Of course, I realize